Okay. Good evening, participants. We are back again with FMLVC's series. In our last session, we started with the chapter of working capital management. Yes or no? Today, we are going to continue with the same chapter. Before starting today's session, let's briefly recap what we had done in our previous session. Okay? So first, we understood the meaning of the term working capital management. Working capital is nothing but funds that you need to run day-to-day business operations. ठीक है? Fixed assets cannot work on its own. You need additional funds for smooth running of fixed assets, and that additional fund is nothing but working capital. Second, we briefly discussed about the learning objectives of this chapter. इस chapter से what are the learning outcomes? What are the things? What are the concepts that we are going to learn? We briefly discussed that it is nothing but estimating the amount of working capital required. First learning outcome is estimating how to determine the working capital. Second, we also learned about operating cycle. What do you mean by operating cycle and gross duration, net duration of operating cycle? Yes or no? Operating cycle was nothing but process of converting cash back into cash. Means the cash that you use to pay your suppliers and the cash that is generated from your customers. That entire process is called operating cycle, and the time taken to complete the entire process is called duration of operating cycle. Then we also need to understand about the specific components of working capital. Yes or no? Working capital is nothing but current assets less current liabilities. So current assets, the specific line items are receivables. So we will understand the concept of receivables management. Likewise, payables management. Likewise, cash management. Likewise, inventory management. So in short, we will be learning about specific components of working capital, the major specific components of working capital, how to manage those line items. We will understand that as well. Last but not the least, financing of working capital. And I told you that financing of working capital is more or less theory part. Correct? And I also told you that the concept of inventory management is getting covered in your paper of costing. So we will not understand that concept in FM. Okay? So this was our brief discussion in our previous session. We started with estimation of working capital. We learned how to calculate each component of current assets and current liabilities. Next, we understood the concept of operating cycle. We haven't seen any practical problems on that, but we just briefly understood what is the meaning of operating cycle and how it is calculated. Okay? So today, we will first start with operating cycle ka practical problem, and then we'll proceed further and see how it goes. Okay? So now, pehle to, everyone please tell me, operating cycle period का formula बोलो. What is the formula to calculate operating cycle period? Can I say it is nothing but RM holding period or RM storage period plus WIP holding period or WIP storage period plus FG holding period, or you can say FG storage period, plus average collection period, means credit given to debtors. How much credit you give to debtors, and we subtract average payment period, means credit given by supplier to our company. ठीक है, this is the simple formula to calculate. Correct, everyone, you are correct. Good, you remember. Now let's say if question does not specifically give these periods, they do not specifically give the number of days RM is in go down, or the number of days FG is being stored, or credit period to customers, credit period from suppliers. Let's say if this information is not given, then we will learn how to calculate this. And this you have already learned. You have already learned in the chapter of ratios. Correct. This holding periods. How to calculate these holding periods? You have already learned in the chapter of financial ratios. याद करो, याद करो. Let's start with FG holding period. Can I say FG holding period was nothing but inverse to inventory turnover ratio? Yes or no? FG holding period or inventory holding period was nothing but inverse to inventory turnover ratio. Yes, correct. So it is nothing but the formula is average FG inventory divided by COGS multiply by, if you want answer in days, then 365. If you want answer in months, then 12. And if you want answer in weeks, then 52. For some enterprises having own funds. So then can I say with own funds comes the opportunity cost. Had the fund been invested elsewhere, uska cost hota na. So we have to consider that as well. And that part is actually covered in the cost of capital. We are here understanding how to estimate the working capital. We are currently not estimating from which source we will arrange our working capital amount. Okay? So that is not relevant over here. Can I say this was the formula that you learned in ratios chapter to calculate FG holding period or FG storage period? It is nothing but inverse to your inventory turnover ratio. Yes or no? So similarly, can I say I can easily calculate RM holding period as well with same analogy? With same analogy, I can calculate RM holding period as well. It will be nothing but average RM stock. Just like we have average FG stock in denominator. So in RM, when we are calculating RM holding period, we will have average RM stock in denominator, in numerator. Since finished goods is based on COGS, can I say raw material will be based on raw material consumption? So denominator would be average RM stock divided by raw material consumed, multiply by 365, 12 or 52 as the case may be. So that is, this holding periods are nothing but inverse to inventory ratio. Okay? Likewise, we can also calculate for WIP holding period. So in this, my numerator would be average WIP stock or average WIP that will be given. And WIP is always based on cost of production. This also we understood in our previous session. Okay? So formula is very simple. Formula is very simple. This is just, we are revising what you have done in ratio. It is just inverse or ulta of your turnover ratios. Can I say likewise, I can calculate or I can derive formula of debtors collection period or average collection period to debtors. It will be nothing but average debtors I am denoting it by DRS, divide by, now it will be, can I say, net credit sales. This is nothing but inverse to your debtors turnover ratio. Multiply by 365, 52 and 12. Likewise, creditors payment period. It is nothing but average creditors upon net credit purchase is a, don't take sales over here. We have seen students by mistakenly take the value of sales just on the exam anxiety perspective. ऐसा students करते हैं. Because of that anxiousness in the exam hall, they by mistakenly take average means opening plus closing divided by 2. Everything. Opening average RM stock means opening stock of RM plus closing stock of RM divided by 2. Average FG means opening FG stock, closing FG stock divided by 2. I guess this you have learned in ratios as well. उसमें भी average ही आता था. Understood? So this is the way to calculate holding period or storage period if question does not specify directly. Directly दे दिया तो सिर्फ add करते जाओ. And creditors payment period minus करो, बस इतना ही. Understood? बोलो, any queries? Any doubts still here? Can we proceed ahead? Okay. Let's move ahead then. Let's try to solve. Some practical problem from module so that you get some better clarity on this. See, this is nothing but operating cycle. It starts from cash, WIP stock, receivables back to cash. So the process of converting cash back into cash is operating cycle. And they have given the formula as well that we have learned. RM holding period plus WIP holding period plus FG holding period, debtors collection period, creditors payment period. Okay? And how to calculate individual line items, we also learned that just now. So if question does not provide you directly on the holding periods, then we need to understand the formula. So again, they have here shown the formula of RM holding period, WIP holding period, FG holding period, receivables, payables. Okay? Now let's see illustration number 2. From the following information of XYZ Limited, you are required to calculate net operating cycle period. They have asked to calculate net operating cycle. See, there is difference between gross operating and net operating. So you need to read the question very carefully, whether they have asked gross operating or net operating. Had the question asked about gross operating, then we don't subtract creditors payment period. Then we don't subtract this creditors payment period. If gross operating cycle period is asked, then it is just the sum of RM holding plus WIP holding plus FG holding and plus debtors collection period. But here they have specifically asked for net operating cycle. Okay, so let's calculate that. We know the formula. Net operating cycle is illustration number 2 from module. So first you need to write down the formula, operating cycle, and they have asked for net operating cycle. It is nothing but R. R is nothing but raw material holding period plus WIP holding period plus FG holding period plus debtors collection period less creditors payment period. I am writing it in short so that we can save some time. Now, please read the question. At anywhere, does question anywhere mention about the RM holding period directly? Like RM holding period is 15 days, 20 days, 30 days. Is it mentioned anywhere in the question directly? No, so we will calculate. We will use the formula. So RM holding period or RM storage period R is nothing but average RM stock divided by raw material consumption multiply by, is the question in days, months? Okay, number of days 360. So we will multiply it by 360. ठीक है? So बोलो, what is my average raw material का stock, average RM stock? Can I say it is nothing but average stock? Oh, it is given 50,000. Can you see here? Average RM stock 50,000. And can you see the raw material consumption is also given? So simply substitute the values. इससे इजी सम कोई नहीं हो सकता. Into 360. Question specifically mentions that take 360 days in a year. So how much is my RM holding period? 50 divided by 6 lakh into 360. बोलो कितना आया? 30 days. Similarly, check whether WIP holding period is given in the question or not. No, they haven't given. So can I say WIP holding period is nothing but average WIP divided by cost of production. Both is directly given. WIP holding period. W is equal to average WIP divided by cost of production multiply by 360. Don't forget to write the formulas. Huh? Directly don't solve by just taking the numbers. Writing formula also tests your knowledge. 30 divided by 5 lakh into 360. कितना आया? 21.6. So you can round it off to nearest 27 days approx. Yes or no? Correct? और पॉइंट में लेना है तो पॉइंट में लास्ट में राउंड ऑफ करना. सॉरी 21.6. सॉरी माय मिस्टेक. 22 days. Similarly, let's calculate FG holding period. Formula is average FG का stock divided by FG is always based on cost of goods sold. Finished goods is always based on goods that is sold, because the goods that are sold will always be fixed goods. Finished goods, sorry, not fixed goods. So 40,000 divided by 8 lakh. $18 days. And can I say average collection period and average credit period is already given? So you don't need to calculate that. It is already given. So my net operating cycle period is 30 plus 22 plus 18 plus debtors collection period is 45 days and credit availed from supplier is 30 days. 45. See, had the gross operating cycle been asked, this is the solution till 45. Since net operating cycle period is asked, we will subtract credit from suppliers as well. कितना आया बोलो? 85 days का cycle है. 85 days means if I pay the cash today, it will take 85 days for me to recover that cash back with profit. ठीक है? Understood? First part. Any doubts, students? Clear? So let's move to second point. What is asked in the second point? Calculate number of operating cycles in a year. So 85 days की एक cycle. How many cycles would be there in an entire year? So can I say number of cycles would be 360 divided by 85? 4.23. Yes. So approx 4 cycles or 4.25 cycles. ठीक है? So साल में ऐसी वर्किंग कैपिटल की साइकिल it will go on for 4.25 times. Approx 4 cycles or somewhere between 4 to 4.5. Any questions, friends, in this question, in this illustration? Can we move to next question, which is again of operating cycle? Yeah, you can round it off. Yeah, keep it as it is. No worries. If you are rounding off, then write the word approx. If you are not rounding off, then keep it as it is. So point के वजह से your answer will be wrong ऐसा नहीं होगा. Examiner will not give you wrong just because of that point का difference. ठीक है? Let's move to next question. This is practical problem number 1. This is not illustration. Practical problem number 1. Following information is forecasted by R Limited for the year ending 31st March 2022. So this is balance sheet of last year and current year balance sheet का required details along with some other income statement का details is given. You are required to calculate net operating cycle, number of operating cycles, and amount of working capital. They have also asked the amount of working capital that is required. ठीक है? So let's calculate. This is practical problem number 1. First is net operating cycle. Again, they have specifically mentioned net operating cycle. If question just mentions about operating cycle period, then always calculate net operating cycle period. Huh? This is just for your clarity. Can I say the formula is nothing but R plus W plus F plus D minus C. Now in this question, they haven't given any information directly on the number of days for storage period. So we will calculate again RM holding period. Now I am not writing the formula just to save our time. It is nothing but average RM stock. So can I say average RM stock would be 45 plus 65 divided by 2? Yes or no? 45 plus 65 divided by 2. The whole upon average consumption of raw material. So average raw material consumption is, bolo, is it 400? Tell me friends, is it 400? 380. As per Hardik, it is 380. Anyone else? Should I take 400 in the denominator? 400. As per Kasak, Manvi. So Manvi के हिसाब से भी it is 380. Yes sir. Shravani 400. No friends. This is purchase of raw material. And we have to calculate raw material consumed in the denominator, not the purchase of raw material. Are you getting this? Please read the question carefully. In our denominator, the formula says you need raw material consumption ka value, not raw material purchase ka value. Can I say raw material consumed would be opening stock of raw material plus purchase less closing. Yes or no? Just like we do for COGS. So opening is 45, purchase is 400, closing is 65. कितना आया? 380. So my denominator will not be 400, it will be 380. So don't do mistake over here. Students frequently do commit error in this thing. Multiply by, we have to take 365 days in a year. So we will not multiply by 360, we will multiply by 365. So कितना आया? बताओ. 50 divided by 45 plus 65 divided by 2. 55 divided by 380 into 365. 52.82. So 53 days approx. Correct? Now let's calculate WIP holding period. So can I say it is nothing but average WIP का stock divided by cost of production. Average WIP 51 plus 35 divided by 2. 51 plus 35 divided by 2. And cost of production is directly given in the question. Cost of production is 450. And multiply by 365. So how much is my WIP holding period? 34 months, so 35 days approx. So it takes around 35 days to convert RM into FG. Then we have FG holding period. Again, it is nothing but average stock of FG divided by COGS. So average FG ka stock we can calculate. It is nothing but 70 plus 60 divided by 2. The whole upon COGS is given 525. Multiply by 365. 45 days. Correct? Next is debtors collection period. So debtors collection period is nothing but average debtors divided by net credit sales. Average debtors is 135 plus 112 divided by 2. 135 plus 112 divided by 2. The whole upon sales all on credit. So we need credit sales only. 585. Debtors are always based on credit sales. 77 days. I am believing your calculation. I am not calculating on my calci. I am believing your कि आपने जो किया है वो सही किया होगा. Last but not the least, creditors payment period. It is nothing but average creditors divided by net credit purchases. The average creditor is 71 plus 68 divided by 2. 71 plus 68 divided by 2. And now here you have to take purchases का figure, which is 400. यहाँ पे don't take raw material consumption का figure. Take purchases का figure. 127. Rachna, there is some error, I guess. 63 days. सबका 63 आ रहा है. ठीक है? So my operating cycle period is 53 plus 35 plus 45 plus 77 minus 63. 147 days. ठीक है, 147 days. तो आ गया 147. कैन यू चेक द आंसर? सो नंबर ऑफ ऑपरेटिंग साइकिल्स इन अ ईयर, साल में ऐसी कितनी साइकिल्स होगी? वन साइकिल टेक्स 147 days. So in a year, how many cycles would be there? Can I say 365 divided by 147? 2.48 times or 2.48 cycles, or times. So approximately 2.5 cycles. Correct? Approximately, rounding off to nearest decimal, 2.5. Any queries here, friends? Bolo, any doubt till here? Okay, now let's see the third part of the question. They are asking about net amount of working capital. See, amount of working capital year. See, can I say my annual requirement, annual operating cost is 325. Means I need operating funds of 325 annually. Okay? This is for entire year. But can I say if I am able to manage funds for 147 days, my job is done. Because for 147 days only my funds would be blocked. Once this 147 days is completed, can I say my funds will be released from debtors and I can from that funds buy goods from suppliers and the channel goes on and on. This we have discussed in last session also. So you just need to arrange or manage funds for the operating cycle period, because that is the time period in which your funds get blocked. Are you getting this? Once 147th day पे पहुंच गए, can I say amount will be received from debtors and you can use that funds. So our task is to arrange funds only for 147 days. Correct? So my working capital required based on operating cost. Here it is based on operating cost, only business related cost. So here the question says that you don't need, or question indirectly says that you just have to calculate working capital required for running operations, not for admin, selling, expense, etc. Okay? So it is nothing but 325. I just need for 147 days. I just need proportionate funds. This is for entire year. This is annually. If I'm able to manage only for 147 days, my job is done. Because फिर तो rolling start होगा. Are you getting this? So 325 into 147 divided by 365. कितना आया? 130.8. 130.8 or 130.9. It is in lakhs, correct? So in lakhs. बोलो any doubt, friends? So 130 आ गया देखो. They have just divided by the number of operating cycles. That is also correct. That is also correct way of solving. I have calculated logically that how much proportionate funds I would need for my working capital. Okay, so both the ways are correct. Here we will need working capital for operating cost, not other cost. Yes, correct, correct. Hardik is correct. ऐसा next question में आएगा. We will see in that next question as well. 325 is the annual operating cost, 325 lakhs, which is given in the question. That in an entire year, I need 325 lakh rupees to run my normal operations or to incur my normal operating cost. But I don't need funds for entire year. If I'm able to manage for 147 days, my job is done, because for 147 days, my funds will be blocked. after 147th day, can I say amount will be released from debtor and I can invest that in business and now smooth flow will start. But I need one funds for 147 days क्योंकि उतने टाइम के लिए मेरा पैसा ब्लॉक होगा. COGS का वैल्यू नहीं, then they would give another information, opening stock plus you can see if COGS is not given, then can I say costing का दिमाग लगाओ. COGS is nothing but cost of production plus opening stock of FG less closing stock of FG. Yes or no? So use this. नहीं, purchases, see FG, how can we purchase FG? We are into manufacturing business, production होगा. So instead of purchases, it would be production. We are into manufacturing. So we will not have FG का purchase. We will be producing FG. So production cost होगा. ठीक है friends? So can we move to next question on operating cycle? I guess it is practical problem number 2 only. No, it is not in practical problem number 2. और एक question था, let me search that. Okay, so I guess there are only 2 questions on operating cycle. So with this we complete the concept of operating cycle period. Okay. Now let's try to solve some problems on estimation of working capital. Because there are variety of questions, different variety of questions to estimate working capital. Friends, before we start, question 6. No, it is not on operating cycle. Everything is now on estimation of operating cycle. Friends, before we start in estimation, do you know I have explained you the basic underlying assumption of this chapter? I told you about the 3 general assumptions of this chapter unless otherwise specified. Do you remember that? One was, these are the assumptions, underlying assumptions, general assumptions, unless otherwise specified. All activities accrue evenly throughout the year. All activities accrue evenly throughout the year. This was the first general assumption. Second, the working capital needed for manufacturing industry business. Yes or no? We are not gonna calculate working capital for businesses that are into trading or services. Third, estimation would be for the entire year. Means how much fund in the entire year of working capital is needed. We will calculate that. We are not going to calculate for 2 months of working capital required or 4 months of working capital required, 6 months of working capital. Okay? These are the general assumptions. But friends, there are certain questions where this assumption will not hold true, where all activities will not accrue evenly throughout there. Specifically when closing stock of FG, closing stock of WIP or closing stock of RM is concerned. In that case, there are certain questions. Question will provide you the hint, indirect hint, not specific hint, indirect hint, and we need to capture that hint from the question. So in few of the question, this underlying assumption will not hold true. So how to solve that, we will learn today as well. How to deal with such questions, we will learn today as well. But the task would be to capture the hint from the question. They will not directly directly say that all activities are not accruing evenly throughout the year in this question. No, they will give some indirect hint. So we need to capture that. We will learn that as well. Okay? But before we start, let's solve practical problem number 2, estimation of working capital. Let's first acclimate ourselves with estimation of working capital and then go for variety. The following data relating to an auto component manufacturing company is available for the year 21-22. So RM holding period is given, receivables collection period is given. Yes or no? Conversion process, this is nothing but WIP holding period or WIP process period. How much time it takes to convert raw material into FG. Okay, so 10 days. FG storage period, credit from suppliers 60 days, advance payment to suppliers 5 days, total cash operating expenses is 800 lakhs. 75% of the total cash operating expenses are for raw material. 360 days are assumed in a year. Calculate each item of current assets and current liabilities. Means in short, can I say they are asking about to calculate working capital? बाद में देखो लिखा भी है. Calculate first each item of current assets and the working capital needed if the cash balance is to be kept at 10 lakhs at all the times. But friends, before we deal with this question, can I say there are two ways to estimate the working capital? Yes or no? Last session we discussed this. One is total approach or total basis. One is cash cost basis. Tell me which approach we should follow here from the data given in the question, from the details given in the question. Cash cost basis. Yes, Hardik is correct. Because here they have specifically mentioned about cash operating expense. Are you getting this? They have specifically mentioned about cash operating expense. So they are indirectly trying to say use cash cost basis because हमने सारे operating expense cash वाले दिए. We have provided the information of expenses, those are incurred or paid in cash. So indirectly you have to use cash cost basis. ठीक है? So now let's calculate each item of current assets and current liabilities. So first, this is practical problem number 2. So first, current assets. उसमें पहला stock of raw material. Stock of raw material. So can I say the formula is nothing but raw material consumed multiply by RM holding period divided by 360. Yes or no? This is what we had learned in our previous session. याद करो, याद करो. Are you able to recollect? Are you able to recollect, friends? Hardik. Yes. Okay. So, is the question specifically provides value of raw material consumed? No, but see, they have indirectly provided. Of this 800 lakhs, 75% is for raw materials. Are you getting this? 75% is for raw materials. So can I say my raw material consumed would be 800 lakhs का 75%? Yes or no? कितना आया? 600 lakhs. So my stock of RM would be 600 lakhs multiplied by RM holding period is given in the question. It is 20 days. And we have to take 360 days in a year. So कितना आया my current asset की value? Current asset में RM stock की value 33.33 lakhs. 33.33 lakhs. I am trusting on your calculation. I am not solving on my calc. First part is done. Second, WIP stock. So in WIP, can I say there would be some raw materials that would be used and some labor and other cost, other overheads. So here, labor and other cost is nothing but just the other cost. They have not specifically bifurcated into labor and other overheads. Other cost means सब आ गया. So it is nothing but raw material consumption का value 600 lakhs multiply by WIP holding period, which is 10 days. Yes or no? Don't take 20 days over here. Huh? This is raw material storage period. And now we are solving for WIP. So we have to take WIP storage period or WIP process period, which is 10 divided by 360. And can I say raw material is 100% complete? Sir, कैसे पता चला? It is given. See, this is also a hint that raw material is entirely put into the process. Complete raw material is in the process. And other cost is just completed by 50%. Okay? So it comes to 16.67. Similarly, other cost. Can I say other cost would be 800 lakh is my total cost. Yes or no? 800 lakh is my total cash operating cost. उसमें से 75% is raw material. So can I say balance 25% would be other cost. So my other cost is nothing but 800 lakh ka 25%, which is 200 lakhs. So 200 lakhs multiply by 10 divided by 360 and this is 50% complete. There has to be some difference between WIP and FG. Okay? So 2.77. So my total WIP is 16.67 plus 2.77 or 2.78. 17.44. Any doubts still here, friends? Bolo, any doubts? Any queries? Third is FG stock. So FG stock is nothing but COGS multiply by FG holding period divided by 360. So how much is my FG stock? Can I say my COGS would be nothing but total 800 lakhs? Yes or no? See, prepare that cost sheet. Prepare that cost sheet. It is 600 lakh of raw material. Then other cost is 200 lakh. When I say my cost of production, my COGS would be 800 lakhs. Yes or no? 19.44. तो 17.44 किसने बोला? So my FG stock is nothing but 800 lakhs into FG holding period. How much is FG holding period? 45 divided by 360. बोलो कितना आया? How much is my FG का stock? 100, exact 100. Next is debtors amount of debtors. Since we are following cash cost basis, don't take net credit sales, take cost of sales. Multiply by average collection period divided by 360. Cost of sales is nothing but COGS plus admin plus selling. ठीक है? Cost statement, याद करो cost statement. COGS plus admin plus selling was my cost of sales. But since no admin and no selling cost given in the question, my cost of sales would be 800 lakhs only. And credit to debtors is how much? 30 days. कितना आया? 66.67. Next is, see, another current asset is advance. Advance is my assets. Advance to supplier. Yes or no? So from supplier, I will buy raw materials, and raw material is 600 lakhs. Yes or no? And 5 days ka it is advance. So 5 divided by 360. ये 5 days है, 8 कैसे? अच्छा, 8.33 is your answer. Okay. So my total current assets is 33.33 of raw material stock plus 19.44 of WIP stock plus 100 of FG plus 66.67 of debtors plus 8.33 of advance to supplier. कितना है टोटल करंट असेट्स? सबका टोटल करो ना. $227.77 lakhs. So this is my current assets. Now let's calculate current liabilities. Sorry, can I say there is cash balance as well? Yes or no? Cash balance भी रखना है 10 lakhs. So we need to add that as well. Don't forget to add cash balance. Huh? So I will write down cash balance, which is nothing but 10 lakhs, which is given in the question. So plus 10 lakhs. So 237.77. How much is my current liabilities? My current liabilities, can I say there is only one line item which is nothing but payables or creditors? There are no outstanding expenses, nothing. So payables is nothing but payable. I will purchase raw material from my creditors. So 600 lakh multiply by the credit period allowed by the supplier, 60 days. No, it is not a margin. I will just see cash balance. In any business, you need cash amount for urgency or for immediate needs. So it is that balance. Balance sheet में जो cash bank account होता है ना, that balance. So they are estimating that we will keep around 10 lakhs. 100. So this is my current liability. So my working capital, there is no safety margin given in the question. No safety margin ka percentage given in the question. So we will not add that. Minus 100. Which comes to 137.77 lakhs. This is my amount of working capital needed. 137 or 237 I guess. It was not 233, I believe. So here it is an error. Huh? It is 137. 237 minus 100. It is a printing error. Why it is considered for other cost for WIP? Last session में भी समझाया था. WIP में there would be raw material entered. Just by entering raw material, your WIP, your process would be completed. Obviously not. There would be some labor and some other overheads expense as well who would be working on that process. So WIP stock does not just consist of raw material. It is not just entering the raw material. There are some conversion cost as well. Converting the raw material into finished goods. Hope you have heard this term in costing. Conversion cost. So that is other cost. Clear? So by just entering raw material, your finished goods will not automatically be created. There are some labors involved. There are some other conversion cost involved as well. So that's why it is also a part of WIP. And I told you that in absence of information, the percentage completion would be 150-50. Hope you all recollect. If question specifically mentions that conversion cost is 80% complete, then we'll take 80%. But in absence of information, it is 150-50. Conversion cost is nothing but labor plus overheads. In this question, they have specifically mentioned that conversion cost completion is 50%. Clear? So this is how you estimate the working capital. Done till here, friends? Any doubts in today's session? Till now? Bolo. Okay, can we move ahead? Okay. So let's move to question 3. Question 3 is a combination of ratios and working capital. Huh? See, these are now unique questions. It is a combination. It is a mixture of ratios and working capital. So institute may ask this type of questions as well, because in one question they are able to test your both the chapters ka knowledge. Also hybrid question. Hybrid preparation or calculation of certain ratios or financial statements based on the ratios and also estimating the working capital. So let's move to practical problem 3. The following figures and ratios are related to a company. So sales is given, all credit, GP ratio, fixed asset turnover ratio and fixed asset. Ideally, the fixed asset turnover ratio ka formula is sales upon fixed assets. But here question has specifically said that it is based on COGS. So the formula would be COGS upon fixed assets. Stock turnover ratio, liquid ratio. What is liquid ratio? Well, what is liquid ratio? Can I say liquid ratio is nothing but quick ratio? Current assets less stock divided by current liabilities. Yes, quick ratio. Current ratio, it is nothing but current assets upon current liabilities. Receivables collection period is given. Reserves and surplus to share capital. Uska ratio diya hai. So share capital. So my net worth is nothing but share capital plus reserves and surplus. Capital gearing ratio, it is also given. Capital gearing ratio ka formula was capital that bears fixed percentage. So capital that bears fixed percentage is nothing but debt plus preference share capital, because debt has fixed interest, preference share has fixed dividend, divided by capital that does not have fixed percentage. So when I say capital that does not have fixed percentage would be equity share capital and reserves and surplus. Fixed assets to net worth. Prepare the balance sheet of the company from the above results. So ऐसा, I hope you have dealt such type of question in ratios. Yes or no? They used to give certain ratios and from that hints. We used to prepare income and expenditure, we used to prepare balance sheet, or we used to calculate certain ratios as well. So here we have to calculate balance sheet, that is forecasted balance sheet, and then statement showing working capital. If a company wants to make a provision for contingencies at 15% of net working capital required. So 15% is my safety margin. In other words, this 15% is nothing but safety margin. क्या हुआ? Any queries? ठीक है. So let's start. Let's first focus on preparation of balance sheet. And you all are very much expert in the ratios chapter, so you need to help me in preparing the balance sheet. ठीक है. थोड़ा स्पेस चाहिए. बैलेंस शीट का फॉर्मेट लायबिलिटीज, अमाउंट, assets, amount. First would be capital. Yes or no? Capital में share capital, reserves and surplus, long term debt, current liability. Let's now denote current liability by CL. Let's try to save as much time as possible. And in asset sides, there would be fixed assets and current assets. And in current assets, primarily there are three things: stock, debtors, cash bank balance. Okay? So first step, whenever you deal with ratios question, if they are asking about balance sheet, then prepare the format. This is my format. Now, second step, try to find out the figures from this question that are directly given. Try to find out some figures that are directly given. So when I say only one figure is given is sales, which is of 90 lakhs. So it is of no use as far as balance sheet is concerned. Okay? So we cannot substitute any of the values directly from the question. So next task, start the treasure hunt game. I told you ratio is a treasure hunt game. Look out for some hints, and from that hints, from that clue, jump to another clue, jump to third clue, third to fourth, and till the final destination is arrived. So let's start. Can I say from COGS, I can easily calculate fixed assets, and from sales and GP, I can easily calculate COGS. Yes or no? So working note number 1. First hint is calculation of fixed assets. ठीक है? Using fixed asset turnover ratio. Ideally, the formula of fixed asset turnover ratio is sales upon fixed asset. But here question is specifically mentioned that use COGS, so we will use COGS instead of sales upon fixed assets. Okay? So my fixed asset turnover ratio is how much? It is 1.5. And can I say my COGS would be nothing but sales minus GP? Yes or no? So 90 lakh का 35% is GP. So 90 lakh का 65% would be my COGS. 5850. So my COGS comes to 5850. I hope how 5850 is derived. I hope you understood this. It is nothing but sales minus GP ratio. Understood? So my numerator is 5850 and I don't know the fixed asset. So can I say my fixed asset का value comes to कितना है बोलो? 5850 divided by 1.5. 39 lakhs. So I can easily substitute 39 lakhs over here. Take some hint and move on. Directly just don't overthink. Take a hint and just move on. Try to solve. Okay? Now again, based on COGS, there is another hint that we can easily calculate stock as well. Yes or no? So we can calculate stock using stock turnover ratio. The stock turnover ratio का formula was COGS upon stock. Actually, it was average stock. But here, since there is no information on opening balances, then we will just simply take closing stock. So my stock turnover ratio is 6. COGS is 58.5 lakhs divided by X. Therefore, my closing stock comes to rupees 9,75,000. Let me save this because sometimes it just PowerPoint just closes it up without my consent. So let me just save this so that we can. So I can substitute stock का value which is 975. तो देखो बातों बातों में तो दो वैल्यू सॉल्व भी कर ली, ऐसी बातों बातों में सम हो जाएगा. Now, which ratio का hint we can take as a help? बोलो. Now which ratio का hint we can take as a help? बोलो. If we take current ratio, then we need current assets and current liabilities. We don't have anything. We don't have complete current assets, nor we have current liabilities. Acha, if we take quick ratio, then the formula is CA minus stock divided by CL. But again, we don't have current assets, we don't have current liabilities. But still we will be able to solve. How? Let me explain. You. Working note 3. Calculation of current assets and current liabilities. Can I say my current ratio? My current ratio is nothing but current assets upon current liabilities. Yes or no? यही formula होता है. So can I say 2.5 is equal to current assets upon current liabilities? So can I say in short, current asset is nothing but 2.5 CL. Bolo, any queries still here? Pranav, you are correct. Yes, Hardik is also correct. You didn't understand this. What is the formula of current ratio? It is nothing but current assets upon current liabilities. Current ratio is 2.5 is equal to CA upon CL. So therefore CA is equal to 2.5 CL. Just a normal simultaneous equation. Now, we can use quick ratio as well. Quick ratio is nothing but current asset less stock less prepaid expense. But since no information on prepaid expense, we ignore that. Divide by current liabilities. So my quick ratio is how much? 1.5. Quick ratio is nothing but liquid ratio. Liquid ratio का दूसरा नाम है quick ratio. So 1.5 is equal to, can I substitute CA के जगह पे 2.5 CL now? Yes or no? Can I substitute this? Because I know current asset is 2.5 times CL. Minus stock का value I have. Stock का value I have already calculated, 975. So minus 975. There is lack of space over here. The whole divided by CL. So I can easily calculate CL over here. Yes or no? So 1.5 CL is equal to 2.5 CL minus 975. So when I say my CL comes to 975, CL comes to 9,75,000 on solving the above equation. Any doubts, friends? Any doubts still here? So looking at the balance sheet, half is complete, I feel. Bolo, any doubts still here? Acha, now can I say my total current assets would be 2.5 times of current liabilities, which is 975. Yes or no? So my total current assets, not the individual line items, but the total current assets comes to 24 lakh 37,500. 24, 37, 500. So total of all these three, total of all these three is 24, 37, 500. So my balance sheet देखो tally कितने पे होगा 39 lakh plus 24, 37, 500. Yes or no? Are you getting this? My balance sheet would tally at 39 lakh of fixed assets plus 24 lakh 37,500 of current assets. So my balance sheet का total मिल गया. It is something around space issues 63, 37, 500. So can I say my total of liability would also be 63, 37, 500. In our class 11th and 12th, we were not able to tally the balance sheet, but in this question, we directly tallied the balance sheet. Okay, any queries still here? Can we move to next hint now? Can we move to next hint? Can I say I can use this debtors collection period? Yes or no? I can use this debtors collection period to calculate the amount of debtors? Yes, obviously yes. So working note 4. Calculation of debtors using debtors collection period. So debtors is nothing but net credit sales multiply by debtors collection period divide by 360 or 365. What is mentioned in the question? Nothing is mentioned, then we need to take 365. Oh, months mein? Okay, months mein. So we will divide it by 12. So my net credit sales is 90 lakh. Debtors collection period is 1 month. So proportionate to 1 month of 90 lakh is my debtors. This is how you presume or how you interpret. Can I say 7.5 lakhs? So I can write the amount of debtors as 7,50,000. And I can easily find the balancing figure, which is cash, of the total current assets of 24 lakh 37,500. 975 is stock, 750 is debtors. So can I say balancing figure would be my cash balance. This is balancing figure 712,500. Any doubts? So if you see, our asset side is completely done. Our asset side is completely done. And in liability side, we just need to figure out these two values. Well, any doubts still here, friends? Any queries, any concerns? Any queries? Now see, reserves and surplus to share capital. I cannot use this ratio because I don't have the amount of share capital. I don't have the amount of reserves. At least one variable I need to have so that I can calculate another. So that will not be our next hint. Capital gearing ratio. Capital gearing ratio is capital that bears fixed asset divided by capital that does not bear fixed asset. So again, I don't have debt ka value. I don't have normal share capital ka value. So I cannot use that. So बचा क्या fixed assets to net worth. Fixed assets to net worth. So can I say fixed assets to net worth? I can easily calculate net worth. So working note number 5. Calculation of net worth. See, from the two variables, I need to have at least one to find out the another using fixed asset to net worth ratio. So fixed asset to net worth is how much? It is given in the question. It is 1.3. No. Yes, 1.3. I'm waiting for this to get saved. So fixed asset is 39 lakh. I don't know the net worth amount is equal to 1.3. So can I say therefore my net worth is nothing but 30 lakhs. Is nothing but 30 lakhs. And you know what is net worth? Net worth is the owner's fund. Is the owner's fund. So it is nothing but share capital ka amount plus reserves and surplus ka amount over here. Are you getting this? Net worth of the company or of the businessman. It is ultimately the owner's ultimate owner's funds. Are you getting this? So when I say my net, I don't know the specific amount, but I know the total of these two. I know the total of these two. It comes to 30 lakhs. So when I say this would be my balancing figure, long-term debt? Yes or no? 63,37,500 minus 30 lakhs minus 975. 23,62,500. Okay. Now our task is just to find these two values. Share capital and reserves and surplus. So we can easily find that as well. उसका भी रेशियो दिया है. उसका भी रेशियो दिया है. Reserves and surplus to share capital. So let's calculate that. My total net worth is nothing but share capital plus reserves and surplus. Okay. If my share capital, the ratio is given. If my reserves and surplus is 1 and 1.5 is share capital. So 1.5 plus 1. So of the entire 2.5 rupees of net worth, 1.5 proportion is of share capital and 1 is of reserves and surplus. Yes or no? So my share capital amount would be 30 lakhs into 1.5 divided by 2.5. And reserves and surplus would be 30 lakh into 1 divided by 2.5. $18 and 12. 18 and 12 lakhs. So बातों बात अरे यार. So with this we complete the first part. We completed the first part. I knew it will close. So I guess I'm not writing it again. I remember the figures. This was 30 lakhs. This was 23,62,500. And this is 18 lakhs. This is 12 lakhs. Okay. So with this, we complete our balance sheet. With this, we complete our balance sheet that is asked in the question. Can you see? उन्होंने vertical format में बनाया, but it is again tallying at 637, 6337, 500. So they have just prepared on vertical format. I have prepared on horizontal, normal 11, 12 वाली balance sheet. So 18 lakh share capital, 12 lakh reserves, long-term debt, 2362 500, 975 inventory, 750 trade receivables, fixed assets 39 lakh, cash and cash equivalent 712 500. So my balance sheet tallies at 63 37 500. Bolo, any query still here? any pro forma, they are testing your concepts and not the format, not the presentation. Institute is testing your concepts and logics and your understanding. So any would do. So this was part A. Hope everyone understood. This was purely a question of ratios. Working note 5, we solved fixed assets. Working note 6, we also calculated reserves and surplus and share capital. Now let's move to part B. Part B, they have asked to calculate working capital. Yes or no? So working capital, again, it is nothing but current assets less current liabilities. Everything we can calculate from our forecasted balance sheet above. Current assets में stock कितना था? It was 975. Debtors was 750. Cash and bank balance was 712 500. Yes or no? So my gross current asset is summation of these three. Less current liability. Current liability was 975. So my excess of current assets over current liabilities कितना आया? कितना आया? 750 plus 712. 1462 500. And I have to add for contingency. Safety margin add करना है. In this question, they have provided that safety margin is 15%. Why? Because this everything is forecasted, estimated amount. So estimation may go wrong. So it's always better to add some margin, to add some safety. So 15% of 1460 to 500. 219 375. And my net working capital required would be 1681 875. Bolo, any doubts, friends? So this is a good question. Why? Because they have tested your knowledge for ratios as well and somewhat to the working capital part. $1681 875 working capital required. Are you all able to digest this question? समझ में आया सबको? Any queries, any concerns, any doubts? So with this, we have more or less covered the estimation part. We have covered the operating cycle part. Now we will solve one more question where the underlying assumption will not hold true. We will solve that question as well so that you get overall clarity. So till now, we solved or we estimated the working capital required based on the underlying assumption that all activities will accrue evenly throughout the year. Accrue evenly throughout the year means sales is same throughout the year or each month or each day. Purchase is same throughout each month, each day. Stock is same throughout each day. ठीक है? 50-50 understand? Okay, then you need to watch the videos again so that it is 100-100. You watch the videos one more time so that 100-100 is done. Yes, Ajay has completely understood. Now let's take question number 5. A very good question where the underlying assumption that all activities will not or will accrue evenly throughout the year will not hold true. Question number 5. MA Limited is contingency wala point repeat karo. Contingency is nothing but safety margin. See, our estimation was that amount of working capital needed is 1460 to 500. But can I say this is an estimated figure? You are not sure that only this much amount only will be needed. So we add some margin we add some safety, that is safety margin, so that to cover certain contingencies or to cover certain emergencies, we will raise 1681,875 from the bank and not 1462,500, because we are not sure that exact 14,62,500 only will be needed. So contingency, or you can say safety margin, you just add. It is 15% of this. 1462,500 का 15% करो. It is nothing but covering for your emergencies. जैसे let's say you have estimated that मेरी ट्रिप 20,000 में होगी, मनाली की ट्रिप 20,000 में होगी, बट योर पेरेंट्स गिव यू सम एक्स्ट्रा मनी ना, कि वहां जाके अगर कोई इमरजेंसी कुछ हुआ and you need funds, then you can use that. So that is safety margin. Question number 5. MA Limited is commencing a new project. They are starting a new project for manufacture of a plastic component. The following cost information has been ascertained for annual production. So we have the annual production capacity of 12,000 units. This is the full capacity. Means factory mein max to max 12,000 units can be produced. Now this is the cost structure: material, labor, fixed expense, depreciation, fixed admin. The selling price per unit is expected to be 96 and selling expenses per unit is 5. Of this 5, 80% is variable. So can I say of this 5, 20% would be fixed. In the first 2 years of operations, production and sales are expected to be as follows. Production in year 1 is 6,000 and sales is 5,000. So can I say in year 1, prima facie, or at this point, there is 1,000 of closing stock? Yes or no? Are you getting this? There would be 1,000 of closing stock. And in year 2 as well, there would be some opening stock now. And also closing stock as well. Is everyone following? Assess the working capital requirement. Following information is available. So this is RM holding period. WIP is nil. Shanti हो गया. We don't need to calculate WIP. This is process में कुछ नहीं होता है. There is no stock in WIP. So it is nil. So major concern is done. अरे Debtors 1 month average sales. 1 month average sales. Is it cash cost or total basis? बोलो. You cannot say right now. We have to check whether it is given in the question or not. 1 month is the credit period. Cash balance 10,000. Credit for supply of material. 1 month's average purchase during the year. Creditors for expenses for all. Creditors for all the expenses is 1 month's outstanding. So there are outstanding expenses as well. There are outstanding expenses as well. So we need to estimate. Practical problem 5 में क्या करना है? We need to estimate the amount of working capital needed. So again, format, we will prepare the format, but now, the underlying assumption that all activities accrue evenly throughout the year is not holding true over here. कैसे पता चला मुझे? Can anyone guess? How did I come to know that the general underlying assumption is not holding true over here? From which indirect hint? Opening stock and closing stock. सही पकड़े. Hardik is correct. And I also used to get this hint from the first line of this question. Can you read this? MA Limited is commencing a new project. Means this is a new business that is going to be started. So can I say, when you start a business, there is no opening stock, but there might be a closing stock. Are you getting this? So stock would not be same. Hope everyone is following. So if stock is not same, then the underlying assumption that all activities accrue evenly throughout the year will hold false over here. Did everyone follow this? I got this in from first line. Commencing a new project means starting a new business. So whenever a business organization starts anything new, there is no such thing of opening stock, but there might be a closing stock. So all activities accrue evenly throughout there as far as stock is concerned is not true over here. Clear friends? So अब देखो, when this thing changes, our cost sheet का format changes. No, only one assumption. Huh? Only one assumption. See, next is manufacturing business only. Second assumption was that we are calculating working capital needed for manufacturing business. So they have directly given that it is for a manufacturing business of plastic. And we have to calculate for entire year, year 1, year 2. So second and third assumptions are holding true. Okay? So now see, when this assumption, when the first assumption holds false, our format of cost sheet changes. Why? Can I say the format would be now raw material consumed? ये तो वही रहेगा. We add labor cost or direct wages, and we add other direct expense or factory overheads, including depreciation. Can I say this would be gross factory cost? Now just remember the format of costing. हाँ, उस पे आता हूं मैं, उस पे आता हूं. I will come to that point, Shravani. First of all, let's understand the format when the underlying assumption changes, because this is very crucial. So in costing, this was gross factory cost. Then we used to add opening WIP and we used to subtract closing WIP so that we get cost of production. Yes or no? बोलो सही है कि गलत है? This was the format. Say at least yes or no. But in this question, WIP is nil. In this question specific, WIP is nil. So can I say this is nil, this is nil? So my gross factory cost would be cost of production. Yes or no? Had the WIP stock been there in the question, then we would have added the opening WIP, and opening WIP in year 1 would be 0, because in year 1 we are starting the business. So there would not be any RM ka stock, there would not be any FG ka stock, there would not be any opening WIP. But in closing, there would definitely be there. Okay? So in this question specifically, my gross factory cost becomes COP, because there is no opening WIP or no closing WIP. In fact, there is no work in progress only. To cost of production, we used to add opening FG ka stock less closing FG ka stock. Yes or no? And then we used to get COGS. Correct? Can I say here in this question, there would not be any opening stock? Because in year 1, there would not be any opening stock because we are commencing a new business. But closing stock hai. Can you see here? 1000 units is closing stock. So there would be some closing stock. Let's say 100. So can I say my COP and COGS would be different over here? Yes or no? This both figure would be different because there is no opening stock and there is no and there is closing stock. So there COP cannot be COGS in this question. ठीक है? ये ध्यान रखना. Till now it was same, but in this question, when we are commencing a new business, it will not be same. So this is my COGS, and then we add admin, then we add selling and distribution. This admin is that admin expense which is not related to production. Other than production admin we are taking over here. So I will get cost of sales. Then I will add profit. And then I will be able to calculate my sales का value. बोलो. Yes, correct. Correct. More or less you are correct. So बोलो. Format समझा? Everyone. This is when the underlying assumption does not hold true. Or in short, I would say this is when a company commences a new business. So always focus on the question. Always read the line. Each sentence of the question is very important. Ideally, students miss this part. कि यार हाँ business start हो रहा है ना, उसमें क्या है, उसमें नया क्या है. But नया ये है कि underlying assumption is not holding true over here. Followed? So now our cost sheet ka format is ready. We can easily prepare cost statement and we can easily now calculate working capital needed. Yes or no? So now let's start to prepare cost statement. Cost statement for year 1, for year 2. ठीक है? So my raw material consumed. Can I say my production in year 1 is 6,000 units? Yes or yes? Capacity is 12,000 units. Huh? This is full capacity. But my production is 6,000 units. So my raw material per unit is how much? This is per unit. And this is units. Can I say it is nothing but 6,000 per unit cost in year 1 of raw material is 40. So can I 6, 4, 24. 240 would be my raw material consumed. Any doubts still here? Friends, now we are preparing cost statement. Why? Because cost statement becomes our source document to calculate or to estimate working capital. Is everyone following? This is also a very good question. Second is labor. Labor. Can I say labor I would pay on the production that they have done? Yes or no? On the production that they have done. So again, it would be on 6,000 units. And labor expense is 20. As of now, first, see, since the approach is not mentioned in the question, you are free to use any approach, either total approach or either cash cost basis. Okay? But just mention the note about it. So as of now, let's first, since depreciation is given, so let's calculate on total basis. Let's calculate on total basis. Okay? Likewise, we can calculate on cash cost basis also. We will just mention note about it. $120. Fixed manufacturing expense. This is now very much interesting. Bolo. Fixed manufacturing expense. It is per unit how much? 6 rupees. So can you tell me my fixed manufacturing expense total in rupees? कितना यूनिट्स लेना है मुझे? यहाँ पे 6,000 लेना है. बोलो कितना है? 6,636. Everyone, what is my fixed manufacturing expense total? Is it 36,000? Sanya says 72. Hardik says take sir 6,000 units. Why Sanya 72? Pranav also says 72. Pranav and Sanya are correct because fixed expenses are incurred on full capacity. Whether you produce 12,000 or 6,000, it doesn't matter to fixed cost. It is incurred for total capacity. I hope you know this. So here it will be on 12,000 units. Correct? So 72,000. Don't make an error over here. This is a likely area where student commits error. ठीक है. Fixed cost, any fixed cost, be it admin, be it fixed selling, any damn fixed cost, it is always on full capacity. Fixed cost का मतलब ही वही है, irrespective of the units produced or sold, it is incurred on total capacity. ठीक है. Since we are taking on total basis, we will consider depreciation as well. And depreciation again, it will be for entire 12,000 units for full capacity. Whether machine produce 6,000 units or whether machine produce 12,000 units, depreciation is to be given on entire machine, not on production basis. ठीक है. So my depreciation amount would be 120. As depreciation is also fixed expense. Although amount may change depend on the method of depreciation. Fixed admin. Fixed admin. Now see friends, fixed admin is a part of production. How? See from this line. Ideally, admin cost comes after COGS. But here, they have given cost structure for this 12,000 production units. For the production. Can you see this? The cost structure is for the production. So can I say this? Indirectly, they have said this fixed admin forms part of your production cost. Ideally, again I am repeating, ideally, we take admin expense after COGS because it does not form part of your production, it does not form part of your cost of goods sold. But this cost information is given for production, yes or no? So can I say this admin would be a part of production only? Kavita, 80% variable is selling expense. Here we are considering only admin expense over. Right now we are just focusing on admin. Selling का होता तो यहाँ पे और एक line होती नीचे. They would have told that fixed selling expense required for production would be so and so. So that again selling expense would be part of your production. Are you getting this? So this fixed admin expense are your production admin expense in this question. Huh? In this question. So can I say I have to add fixed admin as well? I hope this is clear to you because they have given the cost information for production. And again, this is fixed. So can I say 12,000 units पे होगा 4, 48,000. So my gross factory cost would be 240 plus 120 is 360 plus 120 480 plus 72 and plus 48. 6 lakh. Yes or no? 6 lakh आया मेरा gross factory cost or for the production of 6,000 units. Are you getting this? My gross factory cost here, it is nothing but cost of production. See here friends, मैंने समझा ना, there is no WIP. So my gross factory cost becomes cost of production over here. Had opening WIP, closing WIP given, then my gross factory cost and COP would change. In absence of WIP, this is my cost of production and 6 lakh is my cost of production and I have produced 6,000 units. Now to this, can I say I have to add opening stock and less closing stock? Yes or no? And the cost of goods sold. This will give me cost of goods sold. Yes or no? Bolo, opening stock in units would be nil because I have started the business in year 1. Opening stock would be nil and closing stock is 1,000 units. सर आपके मन का फिगर क्यों ले रहे हो? 1,000 यूनिट्स कहां से आया? कहने से प्रोडक्शन इज 6,000 यूनिट्स एंड सेल्स इज 5,000 यूनिट्स ओनली. सो 1,000 यूनिट्स क्या गायब? इट वुड ऑलवेज बी इन स्टॉक ना. सो दिस 1,000 यूनिट्स, प्रणव, ओपनिंग स्टॉक इज 0, yes, and closing is 6,000 minus 5,000, so 1,000 units. So can I say my closing stock ka valuation would be 1 lakh? Yes or no? Just simply cross multiplication. 6 lakh is the entire cost for 6,000 units. So proportionate for 1,000 units, how much is the cost? So we simply just did the cross multiplication over here. So my COGS would be 5 lakh for 5,000 units. Friends, any queries still here? We are just preparing the cost sheet. We are just preparing the cost statement that you have already learned in your costing paper. COGS. And to this, ideally, we used to add admin and selling and distribution. But your admin is already a part of your production. So no admin will come. Only just add selling and distribution. And can I say selling and distribution mein there is fixed, there is variable. Fixed would always be on 12,000 units. But variable would be on 5,000 units. Huh? Because this is selling expense. So selling expense are always on sales ka units. Is everyone following? And my fixed selling expense, can I say it is 5 ka 20% means 1 rupee? Yes or no? So fixed would be 12,000 and per unit is 1. So 12,000 rupees. Variable, it will always be on number of sales or units that are sold. And variable is 4 per unit. 20,000. So my total cost of sales for 5,000 units comes to 5 lakh COGS plus 12 plus 20. 5 lakh 32,000. Ah, 80% variable, then 20% fixed. So 5 ka 20%. Can I say it is 1 per unit? And 5 per unit is total selling. Uska 80% would be 4 per unit. Shravani, is it clear? 5 is the per unit selling expense, right? So 80% is 4 and fixed would be 1. If I add profit to this, I can get the sales amount. Yes or no? And sales would be 5,000 units. Selling price is given in the question. How much is the selling price? 96 or something? 96. 480. So in short, if you see, I have incurred a loss in year 1. 52,000 का लॉस हो गया. लॉस ऑफ 52,000. ठीक है? अंडरस्टूड? ईयर 1 का कॉस्ट शीट. Any questions, students? See, what have they asked in the question? Prepare a statement of profit and loss, ignoring taxation. So can I say we have prepared, this is cost statement is nothing but income statement. So bato mein our income statement is done for year 1, which has a loss of 52,000. Profit or loss statement you say, or cost statement you say, income statement you say, everything is one and the same. In income statement we start from sales and less cost karke profit. From cost statement we start from cost and until sales. But at the end meaning to wahi hai. So with this we have completed first part, P&L, statement of P&L for year 1. Year 2 ka baki hai. We have completed for year 1. Any doubts in year 1 ka cost statement? Because now I will be moving to year 2 ka cost statement. But I want you all to be very clear before we proceed. Bolo, any doubts? Okay. So let's move to year 2. Let's move to year 2. Can I say year 2 ka production in units is how much? Year 2 ka production is 9,000. So here, instead of 6,000, I will write 9,000 units. So my raw material consumed per unit is remaining same? Yes or no? Per unit is remaining same. So it will be 3,60,000. Again, I will pay labor for 9,000 units. 20. So 180. Again, fixed manufacturing expense, irrespective of your production, it remains same. So fixed manufacturing expense 72,000. Depreciation would remain same irrespective of your production. It will be on 12,000 units only. ठीक है? Then we have fixed manufacturing, fixed admin. Likewise, it will be on 12,000 only. 4. So my amount comes to 48. So can you tell me the amount of cost of production for year 2? 360 plus 180 plus 72 plus 120 plus 48. 7 lakh 8, 12 lakh 12. 7 lakh 80 आया. So my COP 7 lakh 80. And this is for 9,000 units. Now tell me friends, in year 2, will there be any opening stock? Bolo, will there? Can I say this closing stock will become the opening stock of year 2? Yes or no? So can I say my year 2 ka opening stock would be 1 lakh and my units would be 1,000. Are you following? Last year ka closing stock becomes my next year ka opening stock. So we will add this and we will subtract. How much is my sales ka units in year 2? It is 8,500. So my balancing figure. So I have produced 9,000 units plus I have opening ka 1,000. So total units in hand is 10,000. Of this I have sold 8,500. So when I say 1,500 units is my closing stock? Yes or no? Is everyone following this? ये क्या 880 क्या? Yeah, this is 880. This is 880. 880 is the amount for producing 10,000 units. And my closing stock is 1,500. So again you cross multiply. 880 into 1,500 divided by 10,000. 1,32,000. So this amount comes to 1,32,000. How did this arrive? So it is 880 multiplied by 1,500 units divided by 10,000 units. Divided by 10,000 units. So my COGS for 8,500 unit comes to 880 minus 132. You subtract the value of closing stock. You don't add the value of closing stock. Please don't add this 132. It is in negative. Closing stock minus hota hai. Any doubt still here, friends? 748. We are just doing normal cost sheet. We are just preparing normal cost sheet. Now then we will add fixed selling expense. So again, fixed would always be on 12,000 units and that is 1 per unit. Variable, now it would be on 8,500 units because variable selling are always on sales units. So in year 2, I have sold 8,500, 4 per unit. So my total variable expense in year 2 is 8,500 into 4, 34,000. So my cost of sales for 8,500 units comes to 748 plus 12 plus 34, 794. Profit would be my balancing figure. My selling price is 96. So 8,500 into 96, 8 lakh 16. So when I say in year 2, I have earned a profit. So profit we will denote it by green and loss we will denote it by red. 22,000 ka profit. So any doubts in P&L or cost statement? This is the first part that is asked. And any which ways for our working capital, we need this statement. So नहीं भी पूछा था तो भी हम बनाते ही है. But good that they have asked this also. They have asked this working note also. So let's check our answer for first part. See, just check the total. they would have solved by some another way, but उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. The logic is this. At the end, our answer should tally. The presentation would change. So first year loss minus is loss, and second year profit 22. 1 lakh how? Which 1 lakh? Closing stock. Closing stock का 1 lakh. It is simple cross multiplication. See, my total production cost is 6 lakh. So when I say this 6 lakh has been incurred, this cost of production of 6 lakh is for 6,000 units. Yes or no? And my closing stock is 1,000 units. So proportionate to this 6 lakh, proportionately I have to take closing stock ka value. So it is nothing but 6 lakh multiply by 1,000 divided by 6,000. Because of this 6,000, 1,000 is in closing stock. So I have just given proportionate value. 6 lakh multiplied by 1,000 divided by 6,000. Clear? And Shravani, is this clear to you as well? Because you also have the same question. So this 6 lakh is for the entire 6,000 units. But from this 6,000, 1,000 is in closing stock. So proportionately, I need to remove that. Likewise, in year 2, 8 lakh 80 is my total production cost for 10,000 units, including the opening. 880 is my total production cost, including the opening. 9,000 during their production, 1,000 opening. So 10,000 units ka production cost comes to 8 lakh 80, and 1,500 units are my in closing stock. So again 880 into 1,500 divided by 10,000. So proportionately, per unit cost of COGS, if you want to calculate per unit cost of COGS, then it is 5 lakh divided by 5,000. 5 lakh divided by 5,000. 100, and here 748 divided by 8,500, 88. ठीक है? This per unit and number of units I have just taken so that I can explain you how this amount of closing stock has been arrived. It is for that purpose. So with this, our first part is done. Now we just need to take the help of cost statement and simply calculate each item of working capital. So now let's just calculate that. Let me save first so that my data does not get wiped off. So second part. Estimation of working capital. ठीक है? For year 1 and year 2. For both the years they have asked in the question. So let's first prepare the format. We start with current assets and we start with RM stock. Can I say RM stock ka formula is raw material consumed into RM holding period divided by 12, 360 or 52? Yes or yes? This is how we used to calculate. So my raw material consumption, now come back to the cost sheet. Can I say it is 240 and 360? 240 for year 1 and 360 for year 2. So 240. What is my RM holding period? It is 2.5 months of average consumption. So it is in months. So we will divide it by 12. And 360 is for year 2. So कितना आया? Can you calculate? 240 into 2.5 divide 240 into 2.25 divided by 12. 45,000 in year 1. This is my closing RM stock. And 360 into 2.25 divided by 12. 67,500 in year 2. Can I proceed? WIP stock. Second was WIP stock. It is nil because we need to ignore this. This is said in the question. And there is no WIP. Then FG stock. If you look at this cost statement carefully, we have already calculated the closing stock. Can you see this? This is 1 lakh in year 1 and 132 in year 2. This is closing stock of what? FG only, na? So we have already calculated in our cost statement. Okay? So in year 1 it is 1 lakh. In year 1 it is 132 from cost statement. So don't calculate again. And that's why they have not given FG holding period as well. See, question में देखो कहीं पे भी FG storage period नहीं दिया है, because they know you have already calculated in your cost statement. Then next is debtors. Since we are following total approach, our debtors will be on net credit sales. And in absence of cash sales and credit sales ka breakup, entire sales of this is 480. Entire sales of 480. This is not 48. This is 480. And 816 is on credit. So 480 for year 1, it would be 480 multiply by 1 month average sale. So 1 divided by 12 and 816 multiply by 1 by 12. 40,000 in year 1. And in year 2, it comes to 816 divided by 12. 68. Correct? Is there any cash balance? Yes, cash balance is there. Cash balance at any given point in time, you have to keep at 10,000 only. So cash balance 10,000 in year 1 as well and in year 2 as well. Okay? So company wishes to keep the cash balance at 10,000. Is there any prepaid expenses in the question? Are there any prepaid expenses? No, there are outstanding expenses, but not prepaid. So when I say my gross working capital part is done, gross working capital, it is sum of all the current assets. So 45 plus 1 lakh plus 40 plus 10. 195. And for year 2, it is 67,500 plus 132 plus 68 plus 10. 277,500. My gross working capital. From this, I will subtract current liabilities. And under current liabilities, one is payables and other is outstanding expenses. Now, a very crucial point. Bolo. Payables. Can I say it would be on purchases? It would be on net credit purchases. What we would have purchased from suppliers? We would have purchased raw material. Yes or no? Supplier से raw material purchase किया होगा. That Rachna, 12,000 is the full capacity of the factory. We don't know how much units we would have purchased. Capacity is 12,000. I have the capacity to eat 12 ice creams, but it is not sure na I would be eating 12 ice creams only. So 12,000 units we cannot take that. That is the full capacity, but we don't know actual purchase. Bolo, can you tell me what would be the amount of actual purchase from this cost statement? See, we would be buying raw materials, that's for sure. From suppliers, we would be buying raw materials. So what amount of purchase we would have made in year one? Tell me. This is very important. 240. Kasak, 240. Ajay, 240. Everyone 240. Here you are doing mistake. Here it is a mistake. Please remember that the underlying assumption is not holding true over here. जैसे FG stock में there was opening and closing. Can I say raw materials में भी होगा? My raw materials consumption का formula is opening RM plus purchases less closing. Yes or no? That assumption will not hold true over here as well, na? In RM as well. Because opening and closing would be different. So your raw material consumption would not be your purchase amount. It would be different. Are you getting this? Is everyone following? Here, these two amount will not be same. Because this amount are different. Correct? So my raw material consumption, I know it is how much? It is 240 in year one and 360 in year two. So 240 in year one and 360 in year two. In year one, can I say opening RM would be 0 because I have just commenced my business. Purchases, I don't know. I need to find that. And closing RM, we have just calculated over here. This is my closing stock of RM. Are you understanding? Is everyone following? So here, your RM consumption will not be equal to purchases because opening RM stock, closing RM stock would also be different. So please keep this in mind. So can I say my purchases in year one would be 240 plus 45, which comes to purchases is equal to 2,85,000. Clear? In year two, likewise. Now my year two ka opening RM would be 45,000 units. Or 45,000 rupees. Last year ka closing becomes my opening. Purchases I don't know. And year two ka closing. Can I say 67,500 would be my year two ka closing stock? So I need to subtract that. So my year two ka purchase. This is for year one and this is for year two. Year two ka purchase comes to 360 plus 67,500 less 45. 382,500. Any doubts, friends? So underlying assumption will also not hold true for RM as well. It is not just for FG and WIP. It is for RM as well. So can I say now my creditors for year one would be based on 2,85,000 and my creditors for year two would be based on 382,500. Okay? So 285. And how much is the credit period? Allowed by supplier 1 month. 1 by 12. And 382,500 multiply by 1 by 12. So how much is my creditors ka value for year one? 23,750. 382,500. 31,875. Done? Till now, any queries? Done? Now the last part. Creditors for expenses. For all the expenses, all the expenses is 1 year. So let's first identify which all are the expenses in our cost statement. Can I say labor is my expense? So it is outstanding for 1 month. Fixed manufacturing expense will also be outstanding. A depreciation will never be outstanding because it is a non-cash expense. Okay? So depreciation नहीं लेना है. It will never be outstanding. Then fixed admin would be my expense. Yes or no? That is also an expense. आर यू फॉलोइंग? और सब बाउंसर जा रहा है. ओपनिंग स्टॉक, क्लोजिंग स्टॉक, सीओजीएस ये नहीं होगा. सेलिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन विल ऑल्सो बी माई एक्सपेंस. ठीक है. सो माई टोटल एक्सपेंस इज सेलिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन विच इज 12 plus 20, then fixed admin which is 12, labor, fixed manufacturing. ठीक है. तो इतने मेरे एक्सपेंस है. So I need to consider all the expense because everything is outstanding. So let's prepare a working note for our easy understanding. Calculation of total expenses in year 1, in year 2. So labor would be my expense. फिर कौन सा था यार, मैं भूल गया. Labor, fixed manufacturing, fixed admin. Labor, fixed manufacturing, fixed admin. Fixed manufacturing, fixed admin, selling and distribution. Depreciation is never your outstanding expense, it is a non-cash expense. ठीक है. So labor was 1,20,000 in year 1. Selling and distribution amounts to 32,000. Yes or no? You have to take both, fixed and variable, both will be counted. Total expense lena. So selling and distribution is 32,000. It is 46,000 for year 2. Let's go up now. Fixed admin is 48 and 48. So fixed admin 48 and 48. I'm just frequently scrolling the slides because the data is up. So don't get confused. We are just calculating the total of all the expenses, nothing else. We are just taking the total of all the expenses. Fixed admin is done. Labor is 120 and 180. And we have fixed manufacturing 70 to 72. This is 72 and 72. This is 180. I have just captured this data from cost statement. Okay? So don't get confused. I'm saving my file. Apart from this, are there any other expenses? Yes, depreciation is an expense, but it is a non-cash expense, so it would never be an outstanding. We are talking about outstanding expenses right now. Correct? So apart from this, I guess there are no other expenses. So this comes to 120 plus 72 plus 48 plus 32, 272. And this comes to how selling and distribution. Selling and distribution is also an expense, na? So I have just taken the total. Selling fixed is 12, variable is 20. So total comes to 32,000. In year 2, selling fixed is 12, variable is 34. So total comes to 46. It is also an expense. $346. And they are outstanding for 1 month. So when I say 272 for year 1, 346 for year 2. And they are outstanding for 1 month. कितना आया? Yes, prepaid expenses also on total basis. Correct. Hardik, you are correct. 22,667. 22,667 for year 1. And for year 2, it comes to 28,833. 883, sorry. 2833. Okay. So my net working capital, is there any safety margin to be kept? Does the question mentions about safety margin? No. So my resultant figure would be net working capital. So my gross working capital was 195, and if we subtract creditors and outstanding expenses from 195, can I say I will get net working capital? 148,583, and for year 2 it is 277,500 minus 31,875 minus 28,833, 216,792, 216,792. See, Sai Kiran, I think you should pay attention because I explained that twice as well. Shravani also had the same question. I repeated that, but when I explain, you don't pay attention, you try to solve by yourself. Again, I am repeating one more last time. For year 2, my production expenses, including the opening, is 880. This 880 is attributable to 10,000 units. This 10,000 is nothing but 9,000 of production plus 1,000 of opening. A opening also you need to add. This is what you used to do in costing as well. So 880 is the cost of 10,000 units. And I want to find the cost for 1,500 units. So 880 multiply by 1,500 divided by 10,000. 132. This question would carry roughly, I would say, 7 to 8 marks. Or 6 to 8 marks. So this is how closing stock of year 2 is derived. I know many students try to solve by themselves, but they skip what I explain. Then they ask me the doubt again. So this should not happen. If you have genuine query, then I will help, but just focus when I'm explaining. A cash basis means only the non-cash expenses are to be ignored. Cash expense means not that they are actually paid in cash. It means the nature which holds of cash. Can I say this labor and expense I would be incurred in cash only? आज नहीं तो कल मुझे payment करना ही है उनको. Today or in future I need to make a payment to them. So those are cash expense nature, or those are nature of cash expense. So वो देखना है, whether they are paid or not वो नहीं देखना है. We have to see the nature which can be incurred or paid in cash. Those are cash expenses. Expenses that can be incurred or paid in cash in future. Yes, only non-cash expenses to be excluded. You need to see the nature of expense, whether they are paid or whether they are incurred in cash. Yes, then they are cash expense. फिर it can be paid in future as well. We are not concerned with that. Or that can be paid in advance as well. We are not concerned with that. But what is the nature? We need to see that. ठीक है? So calculation of working capital. Can I say it matches with our answer? 148,583, and it is likely that the way of solving would be different, but answer is same. I follow my simple structure that prepare cost sheet in working note, use that as a source for estimating the working capital. This is my simple format or structure for any damn question of working capital. Asking G for rupees 80. What is G? 80,000 कहाँ पे है? कहीं पे भी नहीं है 80,000. Where is 80,000? It is 8,80,000. Yes. Why would institute give wrong to you? I have solved by this way also when I was a student. So I cleared my CA. So उन्होंने right ही दिया ना. एवरेज नहीं, ओ बाबा, कैन आई से लास्ट ईयर का क्लोजिंग वुड बी माई ओपनिंग? हाउ 80? लास्ट ईयर इन ईयर वन क्लोजिंग स्टॉक इज 1 lakh. So that would be my opening figure. Question 4. If I try to give insights, it will be bouncer or completely bouncer. So that needs to be solved. And I guess we can take that when revisionary LVCs are done for this chapter. Because right now, if we take question 4, then 9:30 हो जाएगा. Estimation of working capital in brief. Estimation of working capital means, do you want to understand the meaning of the term working capital or what is to be done in this concept? ये पूछ रहे हो. What is your question? You want to understand the meaning of the term or what is to be done in this chapter? ऐसा पूछ रहे हो. Here solution we done. So estimation of working capital is nothing but current assets less current liabilities. And how to calculate the amount of working capital? So first you prepare the format. You prepare the format of current assets less current liabilities. Write down all the line items of current assets and current liabilities. Just write down the line items. Don't write the amount. Now to calculate amount, you prepare a cost statement. You prepare a cost sheet. ठीक है? Cost statement would start from raw material consumption and would end till sales. Now see whether you have to follow cash cost basis or total basis. If question is silent, you can follow any approach. Just write a note on it. Just write a note below. Okay? And there are certain questions where underlying assumption will not hold true. One of the questions that we recently saw, that we just now saw, is question number 5. Some hints are like company question would mention terms like commencing or starting, something like this. Yes, unforeseen contingency means safety margin. The funds that you need in emergency basis. As I said, when you go for a trip, your parents ideally gives you some extra money for unforeseen contingency only, for emergency needs. So that is safety margin. Okay. Then after estimation of working capital, we saw operating cycle. And operating cycle is just addition of all the storage period, holding period. We also saw few questions on that as well. Yes, advance tax is tax paid in advance. So that would form part of your current assets. So you need to identify whether under balance sheet, will this go under current assets or current liabilities? If your intuition says that no, this will go under current assets, then it will form part of working capital as well. Total basis to be used when the question is silent or when question specifically says that use total basis. Okay? Or when question does not provide indirect hints on cash cost basis. So there are 3 criteria when you can use total basis. One is when question is completely silent. One is when there is no indirect hint on cash cost basis. And one question specifically says. Done? Now let me explain you a very short concept of which approach is easy. Both are easy. You just, in cash cost basis, you just need to exclude depreciation. And your debtors are to be valued on cost of sales. बस इतना ही फर्क है. Toughness, difficulty level पे, there is no difference in difficulty level. In cash cost basis, Sanya, we are any which ways excluding depreciation. So obviously it will not form part of your cost of sales. Yes or no? If you are using cash cost basis, depreciation is already excluded above. So cost of sales will not include depreciation. Na? Are you getting this? In total basis, yes. Now let's understand a concept of very quickly understand the concept of temporary working capital and permanent working capital. What do you mean by these terms? It is in the name only. The working capital that is needed for temporary purpose or temporary basis. Yes, we will obviously treat outstanding and prepaid expenses ka, because by nature they are cash expense. If it is paid in advance, we are not concerned with that. If it is paid lately, we are also not concerned with that. But aaj nahi to kal, we are making payment in cash only, na? We would be paying through our bank channels, through our cash channels. So by nature, they are cash expense only. You have to see the nature of expense. I am repeating again. Whether today they are prepaid or outstanding, we are not concerned with that. We need to see the nature. Okay? So temporary working capital means the working capital that is needed for temporary basis. And permanent working capital that throughout the year, this amount of working capital is needed. That is called permanent working capital. Now let's take an example. Let's say I have an ice cream parlor. My business is of selling of ice creams. So when I say during the peak summer season, from April to June mid, I need to keep major stocks because my sales would be high during that time. Yes or no? So during that phase, during that period, I would need some extra additional funds for smooth functioning of my business. That is temporary working capital. Hope everyone is understanding. Temporary is for temporary period or for short period of time. Let's say I'm a jewelry business owner. So during Diwali season, I would need additional working capital. Why? Because sales and business would be on a higher growth level during the Diwali season. So the working capital that you arrange during that temporary phase is called working capital. Temporary working capital. Yes, to fulfill more demand. It's extra over permanent. Yes, correct. And permanent, the funds or the working capital that you need throughout the year to run your business. See, I am running ice cream parlor, right? I would be running throughout the year. So there would be certain amount of working capital that I would need for entire period starting from Jan to December. And during peak season, I would need some additional working capital for short period, for short time. That is temporary working capital. And ideally, practically, I have seen, or practically what? Correct. Temporary of is as per the situation, not throughout there. Yes, correct, Shravani. That is correct. As and when required basis, that is temporary working capital. Throughout the period, permanent working capital. And in reality, what business organization do you know? They try to arrange this temporary working capital from short-term sources because they need for short-term duration. And permanent working capital, if they know that this working capital would be needed throughout the business cycle or throughout the business life, then they arrange these funds from long-term sources. Because they know this fund is needed for long-term period of time till the business is there. So they arrange from long-term sources. But temporary working capital is ideally in reality arranged from short-term sources. Is everyone getting this? Short-term duration, yeah, short-term sources. Why? Because they need for temporary, for short period of time. Understood? So, if you want to denote this in a timeline, the timeline looks something like this. This is a permanent capital, which will be needed permanently till the business is on and on. This is permanent WC. And temporary, as and when needed. This is temporary. So I gave you an example that if I have an ice cream parlor, then during peak summer season, I would need some more extra funds. I would arrange that from short-term sources, and that fund is called temporary working capital. परमानेंट वर्किंग कैपिटल, उस पे इंटरेस्ट वुड बी अ फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट. Working capital ideally is the amount that you need for running day-to-day business. So you arrange that funds from various sources, and from that source you pay some interest or some dividend to the provider. So that is a fixed cost. By nature, working capital is not a cost. The interest that you pay for arranging the working capital. And if you, let's say, if someone said that, sir, what if I give my own funds to the business as working capital? See, working capital is the funds needed. There are ideally two sources. Either you invest, you give your own funds, or you take loan, or you borrow from outside and invest, correct? With loan funds will come interest, yes or no? But with own funds, there would be some opportunity cost. Why? Because if I invest in my business, can I say I've lost an opportunity to invest somewhere else? So that opportunity lost would be opportunity cost or cost of funding my business from my own funds. Are you getting this? So this is a cost. By nature, working capital is not a cost, but the interest or the rate of return on that working capital is my cost. Clear? I hope today's session was helpful to you all. It added some values. So let's end today's session and we will meet again tomorrow at 6 p.m. And tomorrow we would be starting with receivables management concept. We will start with receivables management. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day ahead. Yes, yes.